Sabrina Salvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. 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 I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. Salvati.
All right. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And you can catch me here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Quick shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, and Twitter. And let's go ahead and get into it. Great show tonight, I think, at least in reference to the stories. Want to give quick shout outs to people in the chat. What is going on? Shout out to Jay, says, hello, Dust Bust. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hello, Dillo. Hello. Shout out to Hannah G, says, hi, Sabby. What's going on, Seabrass? Thought she started at 7 tonight. Saw 7:43 p.m. and I was like, damn, Sabby effing Sabs at 8. Hell yeah. Yeah. I start at 7 on Monday and Tuesday, and I start at 8 on Thursday and Friday, because Thursdays and Fridays I have RBN shows as well. Shout out to Saul, says, hi, all Sabby. You are the best. Thank you so much. Greetings, the Quantum Alchemist. Damn, I have to choose between Sabs and Garland for a live stream. You're not making this choice easy for me. I am sorry. What's going on? Bizarro Joe said, I had a very interesting interaction with Congressman Jim McGovern yesterday. And my only regret was that I was quiet and polite. Sorry, fat fingers. That is interesting. I'm glad you got a chance to talk to him. So cool, man. Greetings, Dabby Dabs. How's it going, Sabby fam? Smash that like button. Show's about to start in a few. Go ahead and hit the thumbs, people. Give it a hawk smash. Greetings, Mario says midterms are going to be brutal. And I just saw today that Dr. Oz pulled ahead of John Fetterman in the polls. It's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting. Shout out to Captain Obvious. Yes, the midterms are going to be brutal if you still perceive that we have a functioning democracy. We don't. Dun, dun, dun. Shout out to JM for the super sticker. Thank you so much. Greetings, Marxist Leninists. Sabby Sabs, hi Sabby, and everyone else. Shout out to a non-user, says doobie doobie doo. Greetings, Tristy. Hello, everyone. So glad to make it for the live show. And we're glad to have you here, Tristy. And I skipped ahead somehow here. What's going on, Gamer says hello. Shout out to Angela. Good evening, Sabby and Sabby fam. Looks like more people are finding out that trying to play nice with liberals just gets you attacked when you even start to go against them. We will be talking about that tonight. Greetings, Lone Wolf says Bree is loving the hate. Shout out to Desiree, says hello. Greetings, Arif says Reagan crack. Okay. What's going on, Butter Cookie? Happy autumn. Have a great show. Fall is my favorite season, if I did not tell you guys. I love all of it. The leaves changing in New England, like the trees are beautiful here, like in the fall. And of course, there's all the fall food, pumpkin this and pumpkin that, pumpkin donuts, cider donuts, pumpkin ice cream, pumpkin beer. I know some people don't like pumpkin beer, but the list goes on. Greetings, ACAB sends love. Shout out to Wary. Hey, everybody. Greetings, Bad Fella says, hey, all. Shout out to Mika. Sabby Sabs. Fire. Greetings, Joe OWS. Good evening, kids and kittens. Shout out to Jay Freeman, sends a smiley face and love. Greetings, Cool Blue, says thank you for this live stream topic. You are welcome. I am going to do call-in tonight. I'll put the link in the chat after. But I figured you guys probably do want to talk about one of these stories tonight. So I was like, I should probably do a call-in after the show. Greetings, Deneen Grant says, hey, everybody. Shout out to See the Change says, woot, woot, whoop, whoop. Greetings, Nancy says, good evening, everyone. I want peace. I do too, Nancy. Apparently, some people don't. Gore, son of none. Much love, fam. Thank you, Sabby, for all your insight. Shout out to Kevin says, hi, Sabby. Woohoo. Greetings, Eric says, what's up, peeps? Greetings. Maya's mama says, hey, everybody. That's how they say it down south. Hey, everybody. Greetings, Nicole says, cooking and visiting done, just made it. Shout out to Margaret, Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Greetings, Delthea, who's a Sabby member, says, hello, all you beautiful people. Okay. What are we going to discuss tonight? Quick shout out here to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. If you're interested in being a patron, I have 5 categories: members, Sabbies, Sabsters, Sabinators, and of course, the ultimate. You can find all of their names listed here. And they're also scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the little ticker. That's what that is. Sometimes people ask me, like, who are those names at the bottom of the screen? Those are the patrons. And I want to give a shout out to a new Sabby patron. Let's give it up for Gyro. We call them newbies. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate your support. Okay. We have a couple of stories tonight. There's so much going on right now, but I think tonight is going to be pretty cool. All right. Tonight, we are talking about Briahna Joy Gray is under attack. Yikes. If you are not on Twitter, you may have missed a lot over the past 48 hours. It's getting cray out there, and she is still being attacked on Twitter. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to discuss Hillary Clinton admits it. So Hillary Clinton had an interesting interview with Joy Reid. What does she accidentally let slip out? You will see. Also going to discuss Kamala Harris is confronted. That's right. It was not a good day for Kamala. But these confrontations need to happen. And last but not least, we are going to talk about question number 4. Now, we've covered questions 1 through 3 for the ballot initiatives here in Massachusetts. Tonight, we're going to get into number 4. And tomorrow, we'll do the last question, which is question number 5. So let's get started with question number 4. Question number 4. So for those who are not aware, Massachusetts is a ballot initiative state. So when we go to vote this November, we're not just voting for candidates. We will also vote for ballot initiative questions. In order to actually have a question on the ballot, there's a certain number of signatures that have to be collected. So this is actually the people fighting for what they want without representation of a political candidate or a political party. What's great about ballot initiatives is that, again, it's not attached to a candidate or a party. So even if you don't want to vote for a political candidate, still go vote for the ballot initiatives. So we've done a lot of good things with that. We legalized marijuana here through a ballot initiative. So this is question number 4. What are they trying to do here? Now, this one deals with immigration. Question number 4. On September 9th, 2022, the Elections Division certified that a referendum petition for a ballot question that was submitted on September 7th had been signed by enough registered voters to qualify for placement for November 8th. So here we go. This question, eligibility for a driver's license. So here we go. Here's the question. Make sure I got this here. I'm actually making it just a little bit bigger. Okay. Do you approve of a law summarized below, which was approved by the House of Representatives May 26, 2022? This law allows Massachusetts residents who cannot provide proof of lawful presence in the U.S. to obtain a standard driver's license or a learner's permit if they meet all other qualifications for the standard license or permit, including a road test and insurance, provide proof of their identity, date of birth, and residency. The law provides that when processing an application for such a license or permit or motor vehicle registration, the registrar and motor vehicles may not ask about or create a record of the citizenship of immigration status of the applicant, except as otherwise required by law. This law does not allow people who cannot provide proof of lawful presence in the U.S. to obtain a real ID. So, this one is huge because basically what they're trying to do here, well, I'll get to that part. I'll get to what a yes vote will do and what a no vote will do. Just a second. To prove identity and date of birth, the law requires an applicant to present at least 2 documents, one from each of the following categories: a valid unexpired foreign passport or valid unexpired consular identification document. 2, a valid unexpired driver's license from any U.S. state or territory, an original or certified copy of a birth certificate, a valid unexpired foreign national identification card, a valid unexpired foreign driver's license or a marriage certificate or divorce decree issued by any state or territory in the U.S. One of the documents presented by an applicant must include a photograph and one must include a date of birth. Any documents not in English must be accompanied by a certified translation. The registrar may review any documents issued by another country to determine whether they may be used for proof of identity or proof of birth. Bill Bradley hits it on the head here. They can't keep a list of illegal immigrants, but they won't issue the same real ID as they give to citizens, means there is a de facto list of people with a license, but not a real ID license. I am fine with issuing a license, but it will create a list without creating a list. Exactly. This is another way to make it difficult for people who may have come here. Maybe they're a migrant, maybe they're dreamers. You know, this isn't as easy to do as some people may think if you don't have citizenship here. So this is a way for them to have a list. Think about it. Now, let's go on. We're going to go down here. The law requires that an application for a driver's license or learner's permit shall attest under the pains and penalties of perjury that their license has not been suspended or revoked in any state, country, or jurisdiction. The law specifies that information provided by or relating to any applicant or license holder will not be a public record and shall not be disclosed. Right. Sure, it won't. Okay. Let's go on here. Obviously, if you have a license, you're in the system. Come on. But this is what they're saying here. Except as required by federal law or as authorized by the Attorney General's regulations and except for the purpose of a motor vehicle insurance. The law directs the registrar of motor vehicles to make regulations regarding the documents required of the U.S. citizens and others who provide proof of lawful presence with their license application. The law also requires the registrar and the Secretary of the Commonwealth to establish procedures and regulations to ensure that an applicant for a standard driver's license or learner's permit who does not provide proof of lawful presence will not automatically be registered to vote. That's important. This law will take effect July 1st, 2023. What your vote will do: a yes vote would keep in place the law which would allow Massachusetts residents who cannot provide proof of lawful presence in the U.S. to obtain a driver's license or permit if they meet the other requirements for doing so. A no vote would repeal this law. So it's up to you, for those of you who are here, if you think that anyone who passes the test should be able to do this, to get a driver's license or permit, regardless of citizenship status, then you would vote no. If you don't think that they should be able to do that, if they are not a citizen or they do not have proof of residency, then you would vote yes. I'm actually surprised this made it on the ballot as a ballot initiative question, because there's so many other things that we could have done here, right? So it just, for me, I felt like, really? So yes, some of the people who are against it. In his veto message of this bill, Governor Baker made it known that the RMV, by the way, here in Massachusetts, it's called RMV, not DMV. Every other place I lived, it was DMV. So Governor Baker made it known that the RMV does not have the capability or expertise necessary to verify documents from other countries, and notes that if this bill becomes law, Massachusetts driver's licenses will no longer confirm that a person is who they say they are. So the governor is against it. Additionally, Governor Baker said the bill specifically restricts the registry's ability to share citizenship information with entities responsible for ensuring only citizens register to vote and vote in our elections, significantly increases the likelihood that non-citizens will register to vote. You guys see what's happening here? This bill is patently unfair to those who have taken the time to immigrate to our great country via legal means, and significantly diminishes the public safety of all residents of the Commonwealth. So this is the part that gets me. It diminishes the public safety of the residents. How does it diminish our public safety? I mean, if you can pass the test, how does that hurt our... Let's go on. But he's saying no. So the governor is urging people to vote no. And let's see if there are people who are in favor. They didn't mention any names for in favor, but it says a yes vote will keep in place a law that allows all drivers in Massachusetts to be properly vetted for licenses, passing the required tests, and buy insurance regardless of immigration status. So pardon me if I said that wrong at first. If you vote yes, that will make it so that even people who are not, citizens or Massachusetts residents per se on paper can still get a license here or the permit. A yes vote means safer roads and better tools for law enforcement to do their jobs. In 17 states with similar laws, passage led to declines in uninsured drivers and hit and run crashes. That's why this measure is endorsed by over 60 law enforcement officials statewide, including most sheriffs, district attorneys, and all 42 police chiefs in Massachusetts. So this is interesting because the governor here is actually going against what the police want. So that is interesting. So that is question 4, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I recommend taking some more time to read over this one. Eligibility for driver's license here in Massachusetts. I'm going to go to some of the comments here. Let's see what you guys have to say about this. Let's see. Captain Obvious, my question is, did states obtain ballot initiatives at some point, or have they been taken away from states over time? Anyone know? So Roger Meadows knows a lot about ballot initiatives. I don't know if he's over on Rockfin yet. Oh, I think he is. He just said something on Rockfin. Corey, let me know when you got the comments up on Rockfin. But basically, I know for my state, like when I moved here, it was already a BI state, but you can fight to have your state become a ballot initiative state. In fact, that's something Roger Meadows wants to happen for New York State, right? So it's different rules in different states. Massachusetts, my state, is actually a little bit harder to get these questions on the ballot, whereas some states, they don't need to do as much as you need to here to get that done. In reference to your questions, have states been taken away over time? I do know Mississippi was recently removed as a BI state. They changed the laws so that's why it's not a part of it anymore, and that's unfortunate. So I believe there's only 23 BI states now, and there were 24. Let me go ahead and take that message on Rockfin. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger Meadows. To be technical, Sabby, that is not a ballot initiative for initiatives, create laws and amendments. This right here is a veto referendum, which repeals laws. That's a good point as well. Thank you for saying that, Roger. So that's another thing that you can do. I call them all ballot initiatives, but that's another thing that you can do. If you want to change a law that is already on the books, that is something that can also be presented on the ballot as a question for you to vote on. So, but yeah, over time, yeah, some of these states, like I said, Mississippi was removed. California is a BI state. What I recommend is there's a panel that I have on my homepage under the panel tab, and it says ballot initiatives. Watch that panel because we actually go through all the ballot initiative process for each BI state, and not just a process, but also whether it's a direct or indirect ballot initiative. That's important. Like I said, different states have different rules and a different process that you need to get these questions on the ballot. So definitely watch that video. Okay. We are moving on to our next story. Kamala Harris is not having a good day, or at least she wasn't the other day. Now, she was here in Boston to help campaign for Maura Healey. Maura Healey wants to be governor here of Massachusetts. I'm not a fan of Maura Healey, and I'm not a fan of her opponent, Jeff Deal. Jeff Deal is a Trump-backed Republican. He actually ran against Elizabeth Warren for Senate. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but that's who she ran against her last election. Obviously, he lost, but I'm not a fan of him. And I'm also not a fan of Maura Healey. Maura Healey is very corporate. So she is basically doing this tour. There's a bunch of them doing this. Joe Biden is doing this. Kamala Harris, Obama, Bernie Sanders. They're all hitting the road to help Democrats win in the midterm. And it's not just, people that are running for Congress or people running for congressmen or congresswomen or people that are running as Senate races. They're also coming out to campaign for people who are running in these gubernatorial races. So they're going all over the country here. And Kamala Harris is no different. She's doing it too. So she showed up here in Boston to help campaign for Maura Healey. And she was met by protesters. Now, the protesters in this video, they are from two organizations. One of them is UAWM, and the other organization is UFAD. So you've seen UFAD on here before. I work with the Boston chapter here, United Front Against Displacement. The other organization is United Against War and Militarism. So they're both anti-war groups. And the housing situation is primarily more so UFAD's thing, but they go to a lot of anti-war and anti-imperialist protests as well. So they took this opportunity to ask Kamala Harris a question. Let's check it out. So it says here, breaking, United Against War and Militarism and United Front Against Displacement led joint disruptions of Kamala Harris midterm rally in Boston tonight to bring attention to the government's imminent invasion of Haiti and dismantling of public housing. So let's see how this went for Kamala and Maura Healey.
Hey, Kamala! Tell us about your plans to invade Haiti! You're trying to find the root cause of immigration, but you've done nothing for that. The U.S. has plundered and destroyed countries all over the world, and your administration is complicit in that. You're trying to do that in Haiti, you're going to do it in all countries all over the world. Shame on you! Shame on you for doing that! Shame on you!
Stop dismantling public housing! Your constituents are living in squalor, being forced out of their neighborhoods for one-click condo. You say there's no money to keep public housing public, but you're spending billions of dollars spying on the population, spreading war around the world. It's disgusting. You're a liar. You lie for a living.
Now let's go back here for just a second. By the way, they're all they're young. These are young people. I told you the younger people come out. But I want you to pay attention to something. Well, let me let this finish, and then there's something I want to show you about the room.
Stop protecting you for the people. You're just a tool of the banks. Everybody who's not in this building knows it.
Okay, so I'll point out who's who to you.
Hey, Kamala! Tell us about your plans to invade Haiti! Tell us about the U.S.'s plans to invade Haiti!
So this is Maya. You may have seen her on here before. She was with me when I went to Grant Manor to talk about the conditions of one of the housing projects here in Boston. So that was one of the events, one of the things that I did on the ground. And then I'll let it continue here and I'll show you something else. I want you to pay attention to the number of people in this room. Kamala Harris is here to campaign for Maura Healey, and they couldn't even fill the room. Do you see how the motivation for the Democratic Party has died? When Kamala Harris came to New Hampshire, the line was so damn long, it was wrapped around blocks. So everyone couldn't even get into the town hall building to see her. Here's Kamala Harris, who is now vice president, and they can't fill a room. Let's go on.
They're looking to invade Haiti to rape and kill thousands of people, again, just like they have in the other U.S. invasions and other UN invasions. Tell us about why so many migrants are in the U.S. It's because of all of the U.S. sponsored sweatshops.
So what she's saying here is, tell us about the U.S. plan to invade Haiti. I'm going to get into that in just a couple of minutes, but also explain to people why there's so many migrants coming to the U.S. because of what the U.S. government has done to people in countries like Haiti. And like I said, look, you can see the space here. They couldn't even fill the room. You couldn't fill the room with the vice president. This is how little people care, you guys. This is what I was trying to tell you. The turnout is not the same. Not the same.
You're trying to find the root cause of immigration, but you've done nothing for that. The U.S. has plundered and destroyed countries all over the world, and your administration is complicit in that. You're trying.
So he's talking about Kamala's failure with immigration. And remember, that is her task. She was assigned to that specific issue to handle the immigration issue, which she has not done.
Do that in Haiti, you're going to do it in all countries all over the world. Shame on you! Shame on you for doing that! Shame on you!
Stop dismantling public housing! Your constituents are living in squalor!
So he said, stop dismantling public housing. Why is that important? Maura Healey, just like our mayor, Michelle Wu, they are in the back pocket of real estate investors. Maura Healey isn't going to do anything different. She's going to come in and still allow these developers to come in and buy up these housing project buildings. Well, they'll let them fall apart first. They won't actually fix them. To buy up these buildings and allow them to build more luxury apartments. And I got to be very clear here. This statement or these speeches that these candidates have when they say they're going to build more affordable housing, that is a lie. I've heard it from every Democrat candidate that is running this state. They don't do it. what they consider to be affordable housing, the average working class person in Boston cannot even afford to rent. So we talked about this with UFAD, I think it was a week or two ago, where we talked about the gentrification issue in Boston, how they will basically determine if a building is affordable housing based on the area median income. That area median income includes parts of New Hampshire. It includes suburban communities outside of Boston. So obviously, a lot of the people living in the suburbs that own homes are making more than working class people who are still living in Boston. And there aren't that many of them left because they've been pushed out. So you're not getting an accurate number. So you can have an apartment that's $4,000 a month and it's still listed as affordable housing because of the area median income. This is important for people to understand. Affordable housing does not necessarily mean affordable. And Maura Healey is complicit with this as well. Like I said, she's in the back pocket of real estate investors and developers, and it's not going to improve under her either. Kamala and Maura Healey, they're both corporate. Maura Healey's opponent, Jeff Deal, is also corporate. This is why nothing improves for the working class people here. I can't speak to every other state. I can only speak to the state I live in. And this is what I have seen time and time again. I want you to pay close attention to the people right here in the front. Now, these are Black residents. Look at how they respond when he says, stop dismantling public housing. Listen to this.
Dismantling public housing. Your constituents are living in squalor, being forced out of their neighborhoods for luxury condos.
Right there. All three of them. Now, he's telling them that their constituents are living in squalor. It's predominantly the Black neighborhoods where this is happening. And who turns around to yell at the guy complaining about the gentrification, complaining about them letting public housing fall apart? Who turns around to yell at him? Black people. When it's Black neighborhoods that are falling apart because people like Maura Healey are allowing those investors to come in and they're allowing the public housing buildings to fall apart. And instead of them turning around and yelling at Maura Healey and saying, how dare you do that to our neighborhoods, they turn around and yell at the protester who's pointing that shit out. This is what is wrong with this country. A lot of people are incredibly brainwashed. They really believe that by electing these politicians, they're going to improve the African-American neighborhoods. They're going to make things better for Black people. They don't. And it really hurts when I see like my own damn people turn around and yell at this truth statement here, which is causing Black people to be pushed out of Boston. But they don't care though. You know why? They just want to be up there to see Kamala. You know, Nick was right when he said that American people are incredibly propagandized.
You say there's no money to keep public housing public, but you're spending billions of dollars spying on the population, spreading war around the world. It's disgusting. You're a liar. You lie for a living.
And all the people there, they don't want to hear the truth. You know why? They just want to say that they saw Kamala Harris. You know, they want to fangirl. They want to take pictures of Kamala. They want to be able to go back and tell their friends, oh my God, I met Kamala Harris. This is the danger of making politicians celebrities. They literally can come up to you and punch you in the damn face. And the protester can point it out to you that they punched you in the face. And you'll get mad at the protester for bringing it to your attention. That's how bad it is. Now it goes on. See if I can get out a full screen here. So they go on and he makes them leave, of course.
Where's the free speech area?
So he said he was taking them to the free speech area. Watch this asshole. This is such an ass.
Free speech area? Where's the free speech area?
The police will show you. It's got a free speech area out there.
Yes.
Is UD here for it?
For what? The free speech area? No, but it's basically right off Cromwell.
Wow, a free speech area just for me.
That's correct.
That's incredible. Okay, so this is the free speech area. Just to be clear, they said we had to leave so we can have a free speech. This is the area for the free speech. This is the free speech area.
So basically, the free speech area was outside. Now, I want to show you something else because they actually issued a statement. Please read our public statement with UFAD and the protest yesterday, our treatment by the police and the Secret Service, and the issues involved. The looming UN invasion of Haiti, the dismantling of public housing, and Healy/Driscoll's plan to loot Massachusetts. If you guys live here in Massachusetts, you need to hear this. So here's the statement. I'm gonna have to make this larger for myself, actually. Oh dear, I can't make that larger. Okay, I'm gonna have to use my eyes. Actually, it'll be easier if no, it won't actually. It's just gonna be hard to see this because it's so tiny, but I can do it. Okay, this is the part I want to talk about here. The rally was typical of the rotten political system in the United States. By the way, now let me start at the top. On Wednesday, the United Against War and Militarism and the United Front Against Displacement led joint disruptions of Kamala Harris' midterm rally in Roxbury. So again, for those who are not aware, Roxbury is a predominantly African-American neighborhood in Boston. So just keep that in mind. Goes on to say, our goal was to create a visible opposition to the U.S. proposed invasion of Haiti, as well as the federal and local plans to dismantle and privatize public housing, which Maura Healey and Kim Driscoll fully support. The rally was typical of the rotten political system in the U.S. It was full of empty self-congratulations, frantic exhortations to vote for candidates who are either guaranteed victory or don't even have opponents, and zero discussion of the issues people are facing. So it's no surprise that any attempt by protesters to exercise basic speech rights and raise these issues were treated as an emergency. One interjector was dumped by the Secret Service into a free speech zone and into a patch of concrete behind the building and out of earshot of the rally. Another was taken into a room by police, photographed, interrogated, and threatened with arrest. The treatment is telling of the increasing push by the U.S. elite to treat any form of political dissent as criminal activity on the verge of domestic terrorism. You guys have got to pay close attention to that, because what they're trying to do now, when you watch the talking points on mainstream media, they're trying to make it seem like protests are necessarily are automatically violent, and that's not true. People have the right to say what they need to say. Now, it goes on to say, on the situation in Haiti, the U.S. and Mexico are currently trying to push through a resolution in the UN to launch a multinational invasion force and occupation in Haiti. Now, I talked about this with Dan Cohen, I think a week or two ago. The reason is chalked up to gang violence, but in reality, U.S. elites are concerned about the mass protests that have been building over skyrocketing inflation and the elimination of gas subsidies by Haiti's puppet government. Although this administration claims they care about the Haitian people, their own actions show this is a lie. They have deported tens of thousands of Haitians who have come to the U.S. to seek asylum, forcing them back into situations where their lives are in danger, and are only accelerating these deportations as we speak. The U.S. has occupied the Haitian nation many times in the past, and every time these occupations have only worsened the situation of the people, leading to mass murder, widespread rape, and child sex trafficking. Here in the U.S., we must do everything in our power to prevent another invasion and support the struggle of the Haitian people to buck the yoke of imperialism. Where's the lie? Now it goes on about the housing situation. On the housing situation, throughout Boston and across the country, low-income neighborhoods are facing gentrification, and public housing developments are being replaced with luxury apartments and Section 8 units. This is being justified by the defunding of public housing at the federal level and the severe neglected by local property managers. These privatizations are not done. We go to the next with the well-being of the tenants in mind, but to justify enlisting the aid of private developers to revitalize the area. This results in the forced relocations of the longtime residents of these neighborhoods, as the landlords will be more inclined to accept wealthier renters for the units. Under the Healey-Driscoll administration in Massachusetts, we can be sure that the current trends of defunding and privatizing public services will only continue and worsen without organized resistance. Driscoll is deep in the pocket of real estate developers, and the two of them have promised to demolish every barrier to the unfettered construction of unaffordable housing. This includes the creation of a special state committee to sell off public land to real estate developers, a proposal for a taxpayer-funded propaganda campaign to spread the lie that the housing crisis is primarily a supply problem, and extremely vague commitments to affordable housing that uses code words for financialization and privatization. Healey has also even floated privatizing Boston Public's transit before removing this from her site. Whether at home or abroad, our organizations will stand for the struggle of the oppressed people and expose the lies of the politicians on the left and on the right. And in reference to the supply problem, in reference to housing, that's total BS, because what they're not telling people is that when the pandemic started, a lot of people left. See, this is what they don't want people to really know. Do you know, I used to have the number, I have to find it. The number of vacant units, people who broke their leases, people who fled this mofo during the pandemic. Boston looked like a ghost town. If you didn't live here, you don't know. But it looked like a ghost town, and we were on lockdown. People left. So for them to say we don't have enough housing, we don't have the supply, that's a lie. The landlords were on local news saying they couldn't even fill a building. So there you go. So shout out to those protesters. Shout out to UFAD. They're always doing the damn thing. But we got to keep it up. You have to call them out on this. You got to call them out on it. I'll take that comment on Rockfin, Corey. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Mississippi was removed only because in the 92, an amendment was added to their constitution that had a distribution requirement. A DR is when it comes to gathering signatures. It requires you to gather a certain percentage of signatures from different congressional districts to qualify to go on the ballot instead of being statewide gathering of signatures. The 92 amendment required signatures of 5 congressional districts, but after the mass internal migration of Americans all over the country, Mississippi lost a congressional district. So they're now down to 4, but their constitution says 5, rendering them inert until the MS legislature puts an amendment before the voters to ratify, which goes to your question, Captain Obvious. So Captain Obvious, he's answering that question that you had. When it comes to altering the ballot initiative process, state legislatures must ask the voter first, initiated by the government. Look at the age of our brethren who turned around, Sabby. You know what it is. Well, Bostonians and Massachusetts, I'm looking forward to that BI this January that outlaws private equity from owning housing. Matter of fact, team up with pro-socialized healthcare people and put that on the initiative. In addition, outlaw private equity from owning hospitals, clinics, nursing homes, medical facilities like dialysis, and another BI that says any vacant building can't be used for tax havens and must be used to house the homeless. Well said, Roger Meadows. I told you guys, Roger knows a lot about this when it comes to the BIs. I'm gonna go to some of the comment here and we'll move on to our next story. Hit that like button, guys, if you haven't had a chance to do so. Gamer said, we need more of this. Absolutely. Bad fella. So proud of these people disrupting these politicians. I'm telling you, it's a lot of the young people. They're the ones. Bad cookies. It looks like they are starting to prepare for protesters now. Saul, Maya is awesome. Yes, she is. Joe, my heart smiles as I watch today's youth empower themselves as well as each other. I agree. Danny, Muriel Bowser pulled the same scam in Washington, D.C., affordable housing. That's right. Marvin, donors, developers, bankers, big pharma, APAC, war complex, etc., own the government. You see, this is why you have to get big money out of politics. Thank you for the super chat, AJF. Told you we need to come to the defense of BJG. We're going to get into that. Thank you for the super chat, Disco Phil. I had a dream. I said a gene. I had a dream. Briahna, Sabby, 2024, real change. Oh, God. I would never run for office. Maybe you can talk to Bri, though. Maybe she might be interested. Cool Blue, thanks for the super chat. Perhaps protesters should continue. Get arrested. That's a good point. Elvin Brown, when Willie Brown was mayor of San Francisco, he tore down the Geneva Towers, a low-income housing project, to a private developer. Wasn't that Kamala's friend? Thanks for the super chat, Cool Blue. Follow up to prior comment. More people need to protest like this. Willingness to get arrested. People who do not stand up are willing to get crushed. That's a good point. All right. Let's go into our next story. So Hillary Clinton had an interview with Joy Reid about foreign policy and about the leaders of the world. I caught something in this interview that Hillary Clinton said. I watched this video twice because I was like, did she just say that? But I want to get your opinion about it as well. Check out this interview here. And I think it's actually a longer interview, but this was the one that I wanted to talk about. Now, this is a discussion about Ukraine, but they also go on to talk about Netanyahu. For those who are not aware, Netanyahu is trying to be prime minister of Israel again. Let's get into it.
Political polarization is not a purely American phenomenon. Many democracies across the globe are struggling with the very same issues. On Sunday, the citizens of the fourth largest democracy, Brazil, elected former leftist President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who successfully beat back far-right President Jair Bolsonaro. Tonight, Bolsonaro finally broke his silence, telling reporters that he would follow the Constitution while never actually conceding his defeat. At the same time, in Israel, yet another politician seems to have made an astonishing comeback. Exit polls in Israeli elections predict that former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will once again lead the country. He will marshal a far-right coalition of outspoken religious supremacists, including a follower of the late explicitly racist ultra-nationalist Meir Kahane, whose organization was once classified as a terrorist organization by the U.S. State Department.
What is going to be the U.S. government's response to Netanyahu becoming prime minister again in Israel and the racist policies? we'll see.
Netanyahu and Bolsonaro are close allies to Vladimir Putin. Netanyahu's reemergence on the scene is particularly troubling for Ukraine. Netanyahu recently wrote that Putin is smart, sophisticated, and focused on one goal, returning Russia to its historical greatness. Since launching its invasion of Ukraine, Russia has waged targeted attacks against civilians, including torture, rape, and indiscriminate attacks in densely populated areas, all in the name of making Russia great again. Back with me is former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. We're going to take advantage of your foreign policy chops, Madam Secretary. And I do want to start by asking you about.
Notice how Joy Reid there leaves out the history between Russia and Ukraine. Notice how she doesn't mention anything about NATO. She doesn't mention anything about this has been a struggle for the past 8 years. You see the mainstream media talking points? Because if she were to point those things out, Hillary Clinton wouldn't be on this show.
Brazil. What do you make of the fact that Bolsonaro, in the end, was defeated and his reticence about conceding that defeat?
Well, I think what he did today sends a quite positive message, Joy. I think that he basically couldn't bring himself to say that he lost, and so it wasn't a formal concession, but he said he would follow the Constitution, and he apparently gave the okay to his team to say they would start the transition.
Hasn't Hillary Clinton been doing the same thing? Isn't Hillary Clinton isn't she still trying to blame other people? Recently, she tried to say that she didn't really lose per se. Hasn't she tried? Okay. Alrighty.
So we didn't hear big steal. We didn't hear, it was rigged. I didn't really lose. We didn't hear any of that from him like we heard from and still hear today from Trump. So I'm cautiously optimistic that Brazil will make this transition. I think it's going to be quite difficult for Lula because the election was so close. I mean, it was about as close to a 50-50 election as you could get. But he has made it clear, again, something we didn't hear from Trump at his inauguration, but he has made it clear he wants to be the president for all Brazilians, those who voted for him, those who did not vote for him. So, as I say, I'm cautiously optimistic that he.
I just don't understand what this really has to do with Trump, though. I think they try to find an excuse. And don't get me wrong, I have a lot of criticisms of Donald Trump, but I feel like they try to throw Trump's name in just because, I really feel like some people would forget about Donald Trump, but they can't because people like Hillary Clinton keep bringing him up. I don't know. They should just stop bringing him up and let Trump fade away.
Will be able to govern the country effectively and begin to deal with some of the, very big problems that face Brazil.
Isn't it wild when normal politics is surprising news? When people just do the normal thing like concede an election. I want to move on. To Vladimir Putin. Among the many troubling things that are going on inside the Kremlin is this new seeming partnership with Iran, which apparently is going to be sending drones to help them continue to commit war crimes in Ukraine. Putin seems to be completely off his skis in terms of what he's trying to do, saying last week Taiwan is part of China, sort of trying to stoke maybe China to do.
Okay. I'm sorry. Saying Taiwan is part of China. It is part of China. I can't make this up. So she's talking about the fact of Putin signaling to Iran to send drones. And this is exactly why we need to be calling for peace. Do you see how this should have not even escalated to this point? The United States government and those dummies in Congress for pulling back, excuse my language, but that's what they are right now, pulling back that letter, calling for peace and diplomacy. It should have never gotten to this point. It should have never escalated to this point. How long is this supposed to go on? Seriously.
the same thing he's doing in Ukraine. What do you think? How do you think this ultimately ends? What Putin is doing in Ukraine? Do you think his government can survive this incredible mistake he's made and his just seeming losing his hinges?
Well, we don't know yet, but I think three things are really important. Number one, the courage, the resilience of the Ukrainian people, led by a very impressive government operating under the most exceptionally difficult circumstances. I give the government and the people of Ukraine just enormous, positives because of what they've been able to do in the face of this barbaric onslaught coming from Putin. They could not have done it without the very strong support of the United States, NATO, our allies in two ways. One, continuing to provide the kind of military equipment they need to defend themselves.
But they haven't just been providing them with military equipment. And we went over this because Glenn Greenwald wrote an article about this where he laid out all the numbers. I got to go back and find that article again. He laid out all the numbers. We went over this on this show. They weren't just giving them military weapons. They were also giving them health care. They were also giving them money for clean water. When we have people in this country that don't have health care, we have people in this country that don't have clean water. So they could help them have clean drinking water, but they can't help the people in Jackson, Mississippi have clean drinking water. They can't give people in Flint clean drinking water, and it's been all these years. So I don't like the way that she's discussing this. And I've seen this talking point multiple times, but the data doesn't lie. A lot of people, they're making this talking point on mainstream media. The U.S. has helped them with the weapons that they need to fight. And they totally leave out everything else that was in those packages, all the other things that they're doing for them that they won't even do for our own damn people. That's a problem. Quickly and swiftly, they move to give them that aid. But we can't even get paid sick leave. We can't even give everybody health care. And we've been fighting for that for years. But look how quickly they can move to give the money to them. Matter of fact, next protester, Jose or whoever you guys are, if you're out there listening, I know Jose and his people go. The next time you go to one of these events as a protester, mention that. Mention that.
Against Russia and imposing sanctions that at least we seem to believe are beginning to really bite and will continue to deepen the economic pain of Russia. So I think if we stay with the Ukrainians, because I personally view their fight as our fight. They're fighting for democracy. They're fighting for freedom. They're fighting for their rights to make their own futures and not be subjected to Putin's whims and his imaginary history that they've never existed.
We're going to go back here just a little bit here because there's something she said that is not okay with me.
Themselves against Russia and imposing sanctions that at least we seem to believe are beginning to really bite and will continue to deepen the economic pain of Russia.
Economic sanctions are also warfare. I don't think it's okay for people to starve because of these sanctions. I don't think that's okay. Never agree with that. Not cool. And it's not just like the U.S. just has sanctions on Russia. They put sanctions on Afghanistan. So people are starving there. Yemen, people are starving there. Children, by the way, for the people who want to talk about the women and the children. I don't think that's okay.
So I think if we stay with the Ukrainians, because I personally view their fight as our fight.
She views their fight as our fight? No. Who's our what? Who are you speaking for? Who is she speaking for? What do you mean our fight? How are we in the same position here? How are we in the same boat? We're not in the same boat. What are you talking about? Their fight is our fight. Wow, 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 wow. You see, she will make these statements, and people in other countries, people abroad, they'll hear this and they'll believe that this is how all Americans feel. Because she's speaking for all of us. Wow.
They're fighting for democracy. They're fighting for freedom. They're fighting for their rights to make their own futures and not be subjected to Putin's whims and his imaginary history that they've never existed. I think it's important for us to continue to support them. And you mentioned the partnership.
And of course, look at Joy Reid just nodding her head. Absolutely. Just like a little puppet to continue support them. You don't support us. They won't even support us. But we supposed to support someone else?
Between Russia and Iran, I think that's one that should make everybody nervous. And that's another reason we need to continue to support Ukraine.
The only thing that makes me nervous is people like you and the Biden administration, the people in power in the United States. You guys are the ones that make me nervous because you have not called for any type of peace negotiations or any type of diplomacy. And the one time you tried, they pulled back the letter, they retracted the letter. And then you have the president of the United States saying we're inching towards, we could be inching towards a nuclear war, Armageddon here. No, the only person making me nervous is you guys.
I literally have to go, but do you have a very quick comment about what's happening in Israel? If Netanyahu becomes PM, prime minister again, with a very far right, dare I say, anti-racist coalition, what does that mean? Very quickly, we're out of time.
We don't know. I mean, Netanyahu's a very experienced politician, and he certainly has always paid attention to the threat from Iran. I hope he pays attention to it now because this partnership that Iran has with Russia should be of deep concern to Israel.
Well, I will.
Did you catch that? Let's hear it again. See, I'm going to show you how they give certain people a pass. Listen to what she said.
Fight. They're fighting for democracy. They're fighting for freedom. They're fighting for their rights to make their own futures and not be subjected to Putin's whims and his imaginary history that they've never existed. I think it's important for us to continue to support them. And you mentioned the partnership between Russia and Iran. I think that's one that should make everybody nervous. And that's another reason we need to continue to support Ukraine.
I literally have to go, but do you have a very quick comment about what's happening in Israel? If Netanyahu becomes PM, prime minister again, with a very far right, dare I say, anti-racist coalition, what does that mean? Very quickly.
What do you mean, Joy? Very far right, anti-racist coalition. Do you know what Netanyahu has done? Do you know what he has done? I highlighted this. Thank you, Ashura, for pointing that out as well. Far right, anti-racist administration. Netanyahu he was trying to drive Africans out of Israel. Now, everybody knows about the Palestinians, but here's something you may not know. He was trying to push the African people out. And she says, far right, anti-racist administration. No, remove the anti and just say far right racist administration. What is she talking about? You see how they run cover? They run cover for the state. Listen to Hillary's response. Watch how she runs cover when it's Israel that does it. They run cover. Watch.
We're out of time.
We don't know. I mean, Netanyahu's a very experienced politician, and he certainly has always paid attention to the threat from Iran. I hope he pays attention to it now because this partnership that Iran has with Russia should be of deep concern to Israel.
Well, I will leave it there. I would love to talk to you for another.
She said, we don't know. We do know. All you have to do is look at history. It wasn't that long ago. He was just there. but you can't criticize the state of Israel. You see what I mean? You see the problem? She willing to give, let me get this straight, Hillary Clinton. You're willing to give Netanyahu a pass or whether or not he may or might be racist this time around when you already have proof that he was. But you're not willing to give nobody else a pass. You see what I'm saying? What? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And Joy Reid, like, how could you even say that? How could she even come up with a script like that? Far right, anti-racist. That didn't make no fucking sense. Either Joy didn't do her research, she didn't do her homework, or Joy did do her research and her homework, and MSNBC told her what she could or could not say. That's what that's about. Aye. Tien says, I think she corrected herself and just called him racist. And if she corrected herself and just called him racist, did you hear Hillary Clinton's response to that? We don't know. I'm gonna go to some of the comments. Wow. They really run cover. They really do. They really do. Stephen, we all got to make an effort to go to local protests. 100%. Thomas, Lula has issues, but he is still better than any current Dem or indie politician in the U.S. The Dems are center right. Pete, Trump's the convenient boogeyman, right? Carrie, is all a joke when you're rich. Deneen, when you have no policies to help people, you have to rule by fear. That's exactly what they're doing. Thank you for the super chat, Marvin. U.S. welcomes BB. AIPAC runs the U.S. government. Ask Cynthia McKinney, U.S. Rep. Georgia, AIPAC pledge. Yeah, Cynthia McKinney's been on a couple of times to talk about that. Thank you for the super sticker, JM. Wary, they so want to pull a regime change on Russia. LOL. They just wanted that. That's all they do. Just intervene with other countries. JB, my comrade, a amazing government operating under extreme circumstances. Sounds like Cuba. The U.S. is the problem. Thank you for the super chat. Think before you type. Establishment Democrats and Republicans are two cheeks of the same ass. Keep up the great work in exposing these hypocrites. Love from Somalia. Greetings. And thank you for the super chat as well. Sabby, remember that audio leak in which Hillary said she would have interfered and stopped in Palestine? Oh, yes, a Palestinian election, yet scream about fake Russiagate. That's right. And he's in Somalia. You know, nobody talks about. I'll get into that in a second when we get into the Bree story. I'll take that comment on Rockfin. Thank you for this tip on Rockfin, Roger. Speaking of Dems, making sure we don't forget Trump. You know what the funniest thing is here? The least effective electorate that fear-mongering about Trump will work on is New Yorkers. New York Democratic Party seems to forget we are immune to that shit. We already know who Trump is. We knew who he was before the rest of America, before The Apprentice. You actually think this will work? Explains why Governor Hochul might lose. Dumbasses. Oh my gosh. And thank you for the super chat. Nobi of Death Reviews shit. That's an interesting name. She said, we seem to believe that the economic sanctions are beginning to work. Huh? I know, right? Isn't it cringe? Like when you... Okay. Speaking of cringe, Briahna Joy Gray. Oh, yeah. Where do I begin? Has not been having a good past 48 hours. Now, if you did not see the interview or what has been happening to her on Twitter, you are going to see this now. To make a long story short, Briahna Joy Gray interviewed a gentleman named Joe. I'll call him Joe C. after his last name, who works for the State Department. And I'll get to that in a second. about the Ukraine letter, the letter that was retracted, that the progressives wrote and signed and was pulled back. And I thought he did not advocate for his side well. Like, I thought that he just sounded like he was making State Department talking points. Typical, right? So first, I'm going to show you what was said. This is the clip that got everybody fired up. So I'm going to show you this video clip here of the interview. His name is Joe Ciracione. This is the video that made people come after her, this clip in particular. So let's listen to this, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll get to everything else that has transpired since then. So here we go.
They're stealing Ukrainian children. 500 just yesterday were shipped to Russia. And this is why we should be supporting them. We cannot allow this kind of evil to go unchecked, just on a basic moral reason. I mean, don't you agree with that?
I'm sorry, I don't. And here's
why. Why?
There are gangs that have overtaken Haiti. There is a cholera pandemic that was started by the UN. UN members raped Haitians. A third of Pakistan was underwater. Should we go, due to the climate crisis, should we go and invade China? Because
let me go back to this point, because there's one part. Okay.
They're stealing Ukrainian children. 500 just yesterday were shipped to Russia. And this is why we should be supporting them. We can't.
Okay. The part that people are pointing to, and it's a lot of trolls. The part that people are pointing to is the part where she rolled her eyes. What they're saying on Twitter is that she rolled her eyes about genocide. Obviously, she was rolling her eyes about the trope that he made about the children. And we hear this all the time when people say, but what about the women and the children? And the point that she's going to make here is that it seems like there's only certain types of women and children they tend to claim to care about. And she's 100% correct. Because what about the women and children in Haiti? What about the women and children in Somalia? What about the women and children in Yemen? What about the women and children in Afghanistan? You don't hear that same type of sympathy and compassion for the women and the children when they're in countries where the people are people of color. You don't hear about it. Most people I talk to don't even know about what's happening to people in Somalia. Most people I talk to don't even know where Yemen is located. You see the problem? So she's 100% right about that. Let's go on.
Cannot allow this kind of evil to go unchecked, just on a basic moral reason. I mean, don't you agree with that?
I'm sorry, I don't. And here's
why. Why?
There are gangs that have overtaken Haiti. There is a cholera pandemic that was started by the UN. UN members raped Haitians. A third of Pakistan was underwater. Should we go, due to the climate crisis, should we go and invade China because Uyghurs are in concentration camps? Tell me, articulate. And this is the question that I asked Matt Duss when this war first started. Until you can articulate to me what the rationale is behind where America intervenes and where it doesn't, and give me some kind of moral accounting that makes me believe that it's actually about moral commitment and realizing how much of our money and our resources in the richest country in the world can go to saving lives and increasing the quality of life for the most people, as opposed to a strategic military intervention for territory, resources, and political control. If you can articulate to me why this is truly the most deserving humanitarian case on the planet, as opposed to a continuation of these Cold War policies, we want our economic system, our oppressive, by the way, economic system to maintain global dominance, then I can start to entertain a conversation about what our intervention should be, how long, and how much. But there is nowhere in the entire public sphere that that conversation is actually happening, and nowhere close to a rationalization that's been presented.
Okay. Now, that is the clip that got everybody in a doozy, including her guest. And I honestly feel like he started this because after that clip came out, he decided to tweet his frustration about the way that he was supposedly treated and that he was attacked. Let's look at what he says. I've done lots of interviews on the right and the left. Never has the host weaponized the interview to attack me and encourage their supporters to post hundreds of insults and smears without correction. Don't make my mistake. Never go on Bad Faith Pod with Bree Joy. Okay. First of all, how was he attacked? He couldn't take someone disagreeing with him, because if we want to call this a debate, I don't feel like he won his side. I don't feel like he argued his point well. And he didn't say anything that I hadn't already heard mainstream media say, right? Second, when did she send her supporters to come after him? No, she didn't send her supporters to come after him. What happened was we all saw that clip and we realized that you were full of it. Because I remember I commented and I think I said, this guy is something else, huh? Because he doesn't understand how he sounds. And what I think happened here, I think maybe for the first time, he got some type of pushback on this particular issue that he was not expecting to get. I think that he was expecting most people to be in support of what is happening in the U.S. involvement with helping Ukraine. And a lot of Americans that I have spoken to are fed up. And even some people who I knew in the beginning, they agreed with the aid. Even some of them now are saying, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, I don't have health insurance, but billions of dollars are going to them. So people are seeing this, and I don't think he was used to this type of pushback. I don't think he expected it. And I think it took him by surprise. So he tweeted this out. And after he tweeted this message, all hell broke loose. Because then Bree started to get attacked by two different groups of people based on what I saw. One group was those NAFO accounts. Now, for those who don't know, NAFO is North Atlantic Fellas Organization. You have to understand who they are on Twitter. Now, they're supposed to be, you know, like the pro, like Ukraine, like organization. They have a troll farm on Twitter. And you can tell who they are. Like most of them, the account was created like a month ago. They all have the little profile pictures with the little dog with this uniform on or some type of clothing on, but it's the little dog you'll see in just a second. So the NAFO accounts, what they do is they go after people who have a different narrative than the mainstream media narrative about this conflict with Russia and Ukraine. So they came after Bree. They've also come after Jackson Hinkle. I've seen them come after Aaron Mate, well, the whole Gray Zone crew, anybody that has a different narrative. That is what they exist for. But the way that they went after her, they have been attacking her nonstop, and not just them, but she's also been attacked by liberals. A lot of liberals are attacking her. This has been going on for 2 days. Before I went live, they were still attacking her. So in reference to NAFO, she tweeted some background on the NAFO accounts targeting me right now. Some praise from the Washington Post, followed by the revelation that the founder is a Nazi. So Nick talked about this on RBN before. The memes make sense now. So the Washington Post, they actually were praising this group. With NAFO, Ukraine turns the trolls on Russia. Like, they were praising this group, this organization, you guys, without doing their research. And then you find out later on, pro-Ukrainian NAFO troll chief outed as Nazi. The account behind the pro-Western meme also denied the Holocaust. And these are the same accounts that were responding to her guest. in support of him. So you see, you got to know where the origin of these groups and where they come from. And this is the same group that the Washington Post praised. So here you go. You got Washington Post out there. You got WAPO out there praising the Nazi group. Let's go on. So she started to get memes, and I'm going to go to this, the other one over here, because I'm only showing you some of the things that were sent. Some of them I'm not going to show. But there were a lot of things said. She was also getting racist attacks. So here's one of them. Again, do you guys see this? I'm not going to say it. Like, this was non-stopped. This is supposed to be Cotton. You see this? And by the way, they retweeted him, her guest. So it gets worse. They even tried to go after her Wikipedia page. They can't fire me. They can't censor me. So they're editing my wiki page. LOL. Let's see if they try to get Patreon to platform me next. So someone had sent her the screenshot where they were editing her wiki page. I think this has been fixed. I have to double check. But they were editing her wiki page saying in a November 2022 interview, she advocated against preventing the genocide of Ukrainians by Russia, specifically the deportations of Ukrainian children to Russia. That is not what she said. But do you see how this, and you know what's messed up with Wikipedia? How other people can just go and add shit and remove things from your page, and you have no say so over this. So the gray zone had to deal with this as well. But you see how they could just add that in there when that's not what she said? It gets worse. So then after that, they came after her Patreon. Predictably, they're trying to get me banned from my Patreon, my primary source of income, and the way I remain independent. And you can see here, I'll click on the image here so you can see it. It says, Patreon support. Do you want to be associated with this woman? Oh, no, let's make it bigger. If you do, I will not be using or giving anything to do with Patreon ever again. Now, that's from Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. And look, NAFO right here, right here. So, or does Patreon support genocide? So Patreon responded and said, thanks for reaching out. If you feel this creator is violating our terms or guidelines, you can report them using the information on this page. So I responded to her privately, and well, publicly, then privately. Publicly, I said, this is what they were trying to do all along. They're trying to get you deplatformed. And these troll farms, and like I said, it's not just NAFO. There were also white liberals that were attacking her. And, you know, I had to sit back and, you know, sometimes I may not always chime in, but I do observe, and I did notice something. Where is the solidarity on the left? And I asked that question because, like I said, I saw this went on for hours, like over 48 hours is still happening from what I saw. And I noticed something. I didn't see that many of the white progressives coming to her defense. That's a good point, JB. I didn't see that many of them coming to her defense. You know who did come to her defense? RBN did. I think Gray Zone did. I think I saw something from Gray Zone and also Jimmy as well. But, you know, I got to say this. Your silence is noticeable. And here she is, like, and that the attack that she got, the racist comment or whatever, that's just one of them. There were several. And so here you have someone, I would say one of the most prominent figures on the left, one of the only Black commentators. There are not that many of us, as you see. And one of the only Black women, which there are very, very few of us on the left, commentators, getting all of these racist attacks nonstop on Twitter. Where were the left white comrades to support her? They were silent. They were silent. And whether they agree with the statement that she made in the interview or not, one of your own is getting attacked publicly. And I know they saw it because I saw it. Getting attacked publicly on Twitter and racist attacks. And you're silent? This is why, and I'm going to get to her response in a minute. This is why, you know, especially those of us over at RBN, what if we weren't here? You see what I'm saying? Why are they all so quiet? Why are they all so silent? This is why, you know, those of us RBN will tell you, like, look, at some point you have to draw a line in the sand. And for me, based on what I've seen, especially part of like this progressive movement or whatever it is supposed to be today, I don't feel there's really a place for Black people in this movement. I really don't. Because one of the things I noticed is that we're all together in solidarity when it's time to fight for like Medicare for all, which obviously I heavily support that. I go to the marches Medicare for all. We're all in solidarity when it comes, well, we were in solidarity with like Bernie Sanders and stuff like that, right? But something that I've noticed, I've sat back and I've seen over the years, it seems like whenever it's an issue that primarily affects Black people, all of a sudden the solidarity just go out the window. When it's an issue that affects Black people, you're on your own. If you're Black and you're in this space, you're on your own. They are not coming to help you. Most of them, for the most part. They want you to fight those battles on your own. But they want us to stand with them for everything else. You see what I'm saying? All these people calling out and having this pain and passion for Nancy Pelosi's husband being attacked. One of your own is being attacked right in front of your face. Someone you actually know, and you can't say nothing. You can make a video about Nancy Pelosi's husband being attacked. Yes, this was a physical attack, but still. But you can't make a video about one of your own on the left, someone you actually do know, being attacked. You can't say nothing? Why? Where are they at? Where's TYT? Where's Majority Report? Where are they at on this issue? Why are they so quiet? Now, she did respond. So I'll play a little bit of that.
Briahna, what's on your radar?
Well, Robbie, some simpering, warmongering liberals are getting pretty lost on Ukraine, and it stands to cost them a lot more than just midterms. You see, I got into trouble on Monday when, on my podcast, Bad Faith, I interviewed a national security expert and former president of Plowshares Fund, Joe Cirinzioni, about his critique of the now infamous Congressional Progressive Caucus letter. In my eyes, the letter offered a mere glimmer of hope that the left wasn't going to completely concede its anti-war bona fides to the right, but Joe saw it differently, tweeting, "This isn't about the left or rejection of diplomacy. It is about a very small group with a very specific idea of how to force Ukraine to end the war. This is not diplomacy. It is great power politics." What Representative Raskin today called a, quote, colonial reflex. Now, Of course, nothing in the CPC letter articulated a specific idea of how to end the war, and it certainly didn't force Ukraine to end it on any timeline or under any specific conditions. In fact, the letter lauded Joe Biden's approach to the war and the billions in appropriations Biden has sent via the Ukraine relief packages. But that didn't stop liberals from completely melting down. As a Vox write-up explained, even as many journalists and experts pointed out that much of the letter's contents echoed parts of President Joe Biden's own rhetoric or were otherwise anodyne, international affairs professor and Vox contributor Daniel Drinzer called it a giant nothing burger. Critics piled on the members of Congress on social media and picked apart every word of it. And so the courageous progressive lions at the CPC stuck to their guns and LOL, just kidding. Caucus leader Pramila Jayapal offered a correction before ultimately retracting the letter.
So we know about that part. I want to fast forward to the part here about the video about the attacks. Doo-doo-doo. Okay, there we go.
China because Uyghurs are in concentration camps? Tell me, articulate. This is the question that I asked Matt Duss when this war first started. Until you can articulate to me what the rationale is behind where America intervenes and where it doesn't, and give me some kind of moral accounting that makes me believe that it's actually about moral commitments and realizing how much of our money and our resources in the richest country in the world can go to saving lives and increasing the quality of life for the most people, as opposed to a strategic military intervention for territory, resources, and political control. If you can articulate to me why this is truly the most deserving humanitarian case on the planet, as opposed to a continuation of these Cold War policies, we want our economic system, our oppressive, by the way, economic system to maintain global dominance, then I can start to entertain a conversation about what our intervention should be, how long, and how much.
Now, you can watch a free 30-minute clip of that interview over at the Bad Faith YouTube channel or subscribe on Patreon to watch the whole thing. But for now, you'll have to trust me when I say he never offered a satisfactory explanation, at least not in my view. As you heard, he attempted to use abuses against children, an emotional ploy so common and trite that it's literally a meme, to shame me into dropping my legitimate concerns. And although many blue checks are at this very moment accusing me of rolling my eyes at genocide, I was in fact rolling my eyes at Joe using such a cliched argument to avoid the fundamental question.
Right. So this part here is key because this is the part that they're taking and they're making memes out of and saying that she was rolling her eyes about genocide. That's what they're saying. And obviously that wasn't the case.
Why save these women, these children, but not these ones?
Yep.
Now, it's worth noting that some fact checkers have disputed Joe's account of kidnapped Ukrainian children. But even if we accept it on its face, as I did in the interview, and as much as my heart aches for human suffering everywhere, a humanitarian crisis in Ukraine does not get to the question of why and to what extent America should play the world's policeman. And if it does adopt the role as global cop, why are we only choosing to police certain neighborhoods? 2.2 million Yemeni children under the age of 5 are starving right now as a result of a Saudi-backed war. The United States has sent $4.5 billion in humanitarian aid to Yemen since the beginning of the conflict 7 years ago. Compare that to the $40 billion aid package that went out the door earlier this year. And while words like evil are used frequently to describe Putin, Saudi princes are apparently off the hook. Joe Biden flew to Saudi Arabia to fist bump the architect of the tragedy in Yemen and beg him for oil so that Biden could keep control of Congress.
And this is the point, the hypocrisy. You know, they'll paint one person as this evil, corrupt person, that dark overlord that needs to be stopped. But then they'll shake hands with the other one. If it's something that they can offer to the U.S., they have no problem shaking hands with that evil, dark overlord. If it's someone that could be a threat in reference to competition to the United States or doesn't go along with what the U.S. wants you to do, they're the ones that they try to target and take down. we'll fast forward to this part here. Sorry.
It doesn't bother the blob. It's not their lives at stake, not their kids dying in the war. This is the critical point. Ukraine is not going to militarily defeat Russia. This should not come as a shock to you. Russia is a nuclear capable superpower. Ukraine is not.
It's funny though, because you know, it's true. We've been saying that from the very beginning. So all that money and aid that they're sending to them, by the way, the US government knows that. They know they're not going to, come on. Billions and billions of dollars out the door. For what?
Here's former special advisor to the UN Secretary General, Jeffrey Sachs, on this very point.
Because the United States seems militarily to believe that they will defeat Russia. Russia is a country with considerable firepower, to say the least, and with 1,800 active nuclear warheads. And so all of this talk of defeating Russia, to my mind, is reckless. But at my age, I'm 67, I've lived through decades of reckless U.S. foreign policy, U.S. bravado, and I'm afraid that we're at it again.
This is why it makes no sense to say that America has no right to weigh in on the end of this conflict. In fact, that framing actually is all wrong. It seems obvious that Americans have a right to weigh in on where their money is going. And yet I've seen the following argument all over the place. Why do some Americans think that they're so special and unique that we have an obligation to prove anything to them / convince them?
Yeah, this was a comment. This was another comment that someone had they had sent to her. I remember this one.
Obsessed and selfish much? I'm sorry, but the world doesn't revolve around you, said one tweet. Man, it's literally our tax dollars. And if you don't want any input on how you fight Russia, I totally get it. America has certainly done enough meddling in Ukraine for a lifetime. But now that U.S. money is involved, you can't treat the possible end or diminishment of U.S. aid as coercive in and of itself. When Democrats do this, they give Kevin McCarthy license to credibly argue that Democrats are presenting Ukraine a blank check. What else can you call it if discussing any prospective limit or on U.S. aid gets you named a genocide denier? Again, at no point did I or the CPC letter actually say that aid should be withdrawn. But if asking questions about a diplomatic plan to end the war makes Democrats call you a vile you-know-what?
You see this? This is one of them. You get called out for eye rolling at genocide, and your answer is another eye roll. Vile bitch. You guys see this? It's been nonstop. Nonstop.
Is there any wonder that the right is seen as a more hospitable place for peace movement?
See? And this is exactly why, and we were talking about this over at RBN, this is exactly why people will actually right now, some people are pointing to people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're like, well, she's right. Like, we should stop giving them money. We do need to call for some type of peace. Now it's like, why are they more sensible on this issue per se? Now, I will say that both parties are pro-war and they're probably against this right now because of the fact that, number one, the inflation, but number two, also it's done under Democrat administration. Let's be real here. But at the same time, who looks to be sensible right now when it comes to this issue? Not all the other ones, but just this issue in particular. And this is why next week, I think Dem's going to lose some of these seats because you can't continue to keep making this excuse that the billions and billions going out the door as if the American people don't even see. They know exactly what's happening. They know you have the money. They know you have it. So it's embarrassing at this point. The American people are not as stupid as they think. But God forbid you even question it or you push back on it. That's the problem. They don't want you to question it. They don't want you to push back. And I got to tell you this as well. I told you that guy, State Department. Where is his page? Uh-oh, I made this too big. I made it too small. I made that too small. Look at it. Let me show you this guy, okay? This is the guy that was interviewed. All right. Joe, national security expert, member of the CFR org, former president at Plowshares, VP AmProg, American Progress. So he comes from American Progress, director of Carnegie Endowment. Look at this. House Armed Services Democrats, taught at Georgetown, former ISAB advisor, State Department. So this is the talking point that he's going to have because he's coming from the State Department, and his job is to make sure that the message that Bree sent doesn't get out to more people. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't have proof. This is a guess, but I wouldn't be surprised if he signaled for those NAFO people to go after her. Wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to go to these comments here, and we are going to talk on call-in tonight about this. Thank you for the super chat, Delthea. On GP, always remember, there's nothing in the middle of the road but yellow stripes and dead armadillos. Bill, I am not sure any group of people gets more flack than a black person that doesn't toe the DNC line. It is always a pile on and it's always gross. This is true. Jeremy, they can't challenge your argument, so they resort to character. Roxanne, he can't take this attack because he's eager for war. Typical. There's a picture of this guy with the Raytheon shirt on too. Thank you for the super chat, Marvin. U.S. picks what is moral if country has resource or strategic location. Otherwise, crimes can go on unmentioned. Thank you for the super sticker, JM. Desiree, Joe, like I've never been attacked like this. LOL. OMG, let the racism be revealed. A black woman using logic and intellect and evidence is violent to white supremacy. Thank you for the super chat, Colin. People were up in arms when Jimmy Dore said the N-word when he was on TYT, but had no problem tweeting that meme to BJG, the hypocrisy. Same people. Thank you for the super chat, Newbie. Joe didn't know who he's up against. When BJG starts on an opinion I disagree with, I know I'm going to have to process well thought out rational ideas. Thank you for the super chat. Think before you type. She did attack him with the truth, and when he couldn't handle it, he resorts to typical projections and weaponization against Bree, delusional at best. Thank you for the super chat, Lana. Bree is amazing. She is my hero. Welcome, Lana. Thank you for the super chat, Colin. Sabby, you know as well as I do that the big channels don't like Bree that much. Define big channel. Like, I don't know. I've seen her on a lot of those, actually. Thank you for the membership, Seabrass. Thank you for becoming a Sabby member. And thank you for the super chat, Isabel. Nina Turner can rage tweet at JD for a simple criticism, but silent when an educated black woman gets called subhuman. I can't disagree. Thank you for the super chat, Miss. They silent because they have to say the same narrative as the white dude. I don't have a Twitter, but we are lucky to have Briahna in this world. Doing what's right is hard. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for the super sticker, JM. Yeah, I haven't heard Sebastian. Honey, this tea is hot. Yeah, I didn't see Nina Turner say anything either, but I'm sorry, but maybe some people may have reached out privately, but with that type of situation, how she was constantly being public attacked like that, I think you should have said something publicly. That's my take on that. But I still stand by what I said. This progressive movement or whatever, it doesn't really have a place for black people. And I say it again, you have to draw a line in the sand at some point. Boom. All right, guys, we will be heading over to call in. I am going to put the link up there. Let me do this. We got to do this somehow. Where do I get to the... Okay. Oh, balls. Okay, here we go. I just got to send the link to you guys. I got to put it in the... Oh, did I put it there? Oh, I need to pin it to the chat. Sorry. All right, guys. If you would like to join me over on Call-In, we will discuss this. So that's the discussion tonight, and we'll get into it. Let's see. We got here. Somebody's watching me. Okay, Call-In. And I want to hear your takes on it, and I'll go ahead and read the thing, and I'll replace it with the other pin. Replace pin message. Okay, so the Call-In link is now pinned to the top of the chat there. And what are we discussing? Hit that like button if you didn't have a chance to do so, guys. I know some of you that watch me are trolls. Episode 52 on Call-In. Left solidarity for Briahna Joy Gray has been smeared for the past 48 hours over disagreement during a bad faith podcast interview. Some have come to her defense. Where is solidarity on the left? So there it is. I will open the room once I head out of here, and it's pinned to the top of the chat. I'll see you guys over at Call-In. Have a good night. I'll be back tomorrow. Keep up the fight.